What is good, people? Welcome back to the channel. KG is back, and it is time for club football. Thank you. Even though we're going to have to speak a little bit about international, only a touch, though, only a touch. But listen, before I get into today's press conference reaction, there's a few bits and pieces to get through. Not as much as there should be, people. I'm going to say this off the bat. That press conference was one of the worst that we've had. And it's no fault of Daniel Farker. I knew it was going to happen. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know this. But yesterday I put out just a joke in the stories, just saying Daniel Farker thinking that all the England Germany questions will be finished, and then the journal will here say here's two more. And I was right. It's just obvious, isn't it? It's obvious. We got a German manager. England have just appointed a German manager. We was obviously going to get questions, but the thing that is annoying for me as a guy that is purely club football only is that this is a big game on Friday, and it didn't feel like the journalists had the know-how, the gravitas to know just how big this game is this Friday for a multitude of reasons. And that set the tone for a poor press conference today. But look, we'll get through the bits that we can. There is a couple of talking points. Before I do, hit the like, subscribe to the channel, of course, drop your comments below. And thank you to Mark Lunn, who's become a member of this channel. Thank you for that, Mark, and thank you to all existing members of the channel. Much appreciated to you all. And if you want to become a member, the link is in the description. And I mean, listen, my guy who's a reporter probably sums it up the best in terms of international football, club football. Growing chasm between international and club football. Fans generally hate the international breaks and just want club football back. Players don't tend to show their best, often don't look fully motivated. Yeah, and listen, the players that I know that are on international duty, they love it. You know, they've never said to me, yeah, we can't stand this break away. You know, they enjoy representing their countries, but from a fan point of view, these breaks that we're going to have, and we've got yet another one in November, it's just poor. It just upsets the rhythm. And I see it through people that do international content who usually do club football. They don't really care. They don't really care. I can see it in the way that they do the content. The passion isn't there like they do for their own clubs. It's just annoying, isn't it? But you know, FIFA rule the world, and you know, hopefully they'll get one of these tournaments out like the Nations League. Just poor stuff, isn't it? But the thing is, the reason why I'm saying it though is because it affected us today. And I don't feel like we're getting that big game feeling, which it is on Friday between Leeds United and Sheffield United. But I realize how big of a game it is. And morning to everyone in the chat. And listen, if you're watching the playback, we're going to get into the Daniel Farker's notes now. And listen, we've got some good injury news on for once. You know, usually when these breaks come back, you're like, is there a setback with somebody? Is somebody new on the shelf? Well, no, we've got both Dan James and Manor Solomon back, and they're in contention for the game. Probably Solomon is more likely to, if someone is going to start, it would more likely be Solomon in terms of James, how long he's been out for. But the fact both are back in training, full training and everything else like that is absolutely brilliant news. Brilliant news for the depth of the team, brilliant news for the quality of the team. We're going to see that the bench now, the starting 11, be even stronger than it was before. And that is only good news, people. Even Max Verber is ahead of schedule, ahead of his schedule in the rehab program. And we know we're going to need him at some point. So that is good news also, because I think we weren't expecting Max Verber back until after the next international break. Well, it looks like he could play a part before. He won't be involved against Sheffield United, but that's good news for the depth of the team. Let's have a look. Sean here saying, having a terrible week. Happy to you, KJ. Sean, I hope your week gets better, man. Listen, one day at a time. One day at a time. Hopefully it's nothing too debilitating for you, but I hope you're well, man. Aaron here saying, feels like we haven't had a game in a month. Yeah, I've just totally switched off, Aaron, and all the little headlines about what our players have done internationally. It's like, yeah, great. You know, Firpo scoring against, I won't be disrespectful, but, you know, he's scoring against what he's scoring against. Who cares? What I care about is that Brendan Aronson had a game at 5 a.m. today. And if he's to start on Friday, like he did in the last international break with that quick turnaround, that's a concern for me. If we've got players that are picking up niggles on international duty, that's a concern for me. International football for me is something that I enjoy during tournaments and tournaments only. And that's because I don't have a horse in the race. I just enjoy it as a spectacle, seeing the best players play. But all of this kind of news of Firpo scoring a Panenka penalty and all this, great. Mike here saying, who was asking the questions, and in particular, first questions. Yeah, I'm going to say this, man. The opening questions, it was literally the first 12 minutes or 10 to 12 minutes. that journalist, whoever he was brutal. I don't think he was one of our regular ones. I think he was probably more to do with Sky or some one of those companies. Absolutely brutal. But then it didn't help that Popey then double backed and went back into that Germany England bag too. That's the unfortunate thing. So I'll be looking out for Chris Wilder's press conference. I don't think he's had his yet. But I'll be back tomorrow with the preview for this game. We're going to do that in depth because there's a lot to discuss about this game for Friday, and we're going to do that tomorrow. Uh, and listen, yeah, worst presser ever. And listen, I'm not complaining about us having international players. I want us to have international players because that means that your squad is actually about something. Even if they're not playing for the greatest nations, they're still doing something. Listen, we have Brendan Aronson playing, and it was brought up in the press conference today about Christian Pulisic being given time away, and so he can go back to his club. How did Danny Farker feel? Danny Farker suppressed his feelings on that. I could tell by his face, and what he wanted to say was very different from what came out of his mouth. But it's good that we've got international players. That's not my issue, but it's more in line of what Farker's saying here when he said about this derby shouldn't be on Friday. It should have 2 fully fit squads. I mean, you can never account for injuries, but the main point he was trying to make is that it shouldn't be on a Friday on the first game back after international breaks. And there's something to that, but again, no excuses. Big game. Everyone should know the gravitas of this game. It's huge. And we need to make a statement against one of the teams that we should be affecting. You know, we almost did it against Sunderland, where I'm likening Sunderland to being the Ipswich of this season at this point in time. Not saying that they're going to get promoted, but we could have really put a dent in their confidence if we come away with 3 points in that one. And instead, we've given them a lifeline to say, okay, we're still unbeaten at home. We may have conceded. We're still unbeaten at home. We go again, but we should have gone down. We aren't as good as the Leeds of this world. We're going to have to reset, do something different. But yeah. Allison saying, yeah, hi KG, it was all England press. It was brutal, man, brutal. Robert here saying Championship's biggest game of the season. Absolutely. And this is the point I'm trying to make. The press conference today should have felt big. Like there should have been questions from all angles of this for this game. And there was hardly anything. It was very surface level. Even when they brought up Elan Meslier, that didn't go in deep enough for me. By what Farker said anyway, Meslier will be starting on Friday. I'm still going to give my preferred lineup tomorrow. We're going to do that tomorrow in the preview. But there was no drilling down on it. You know, it was simply put, yeah, Mellier's made a mistake. It's a 1 in a million mistake, and he's going to come back and show why he's so good. That should have been dug into, because then that should have been a journalist say, and this wouldn't have affected their credentials. It would have been, but Daniel, he's had that mistake. You could even say there's questions about him jumping over a penalty against Norwich, the Portsmouth error. He's had a few. Is Carl Darlow anywhere near starting the game? How simple is that? You know, you can put it as nicely, wrap it up in a bow as nicely as possible. They literally did one about Meslier and moved on when it's a key position. And when you compare it to Mike Cooper of Sheffield United, who is also like Meslier in the way that he doesn't have a lot to do, but what he's been doing very well. And that's the difference between the two goalkeepers. He's literally just won their player of the month. So yeah, the press conference day was an absolute shambles, especially for a game of the magnitude of it is in the Championship, 100%. Jake here saying, yeah, let's give them their first loss. Yeah, that's what we've got to aim to do. Again, we'll speak about that tomorrow, Jake, and everyone else. We'll go into depth because it's going to be a big preview tomorrow for the game. But yeah, we need to set markers down, because we haven't done it against any of the better teams in the league. We didn't beat Burnley. We didn't go to Sunderland and get the 3 points. We need to do something against Sheffield United for sure, big time. Yeah, Max, all that England talk has got me so hyped for Friday now. It's just poor, isn't it? And it's all because we've got a German manager. It's just vanilla journalism 101. Just so obvious and so poor. But look, we've had 12 players away. We're going to have to get the ones that are still away or coming back assessed tomorrow. So that turnaround is brutal. You know, and there's some players that would have played just last night, like we say, Brendan Aronson playing 5 a.m. this morning in Mexico. I'd be very surprised if he's the start. I would probably expect Solomon to come in, but again, we'll speak about that tomorrow. Firpo, of course, has been away. There's a lot to come back from overseas, and they're not going to be back until a day before this fixture's played, which is not ideal for anyone's preparations, no matter how you want to wrap it up. What was the other thing as well? Just a reminder as well that Roden and Bogle, and I think we've got someone else on a yellow card as well. Can't remember who it is, but Roden and Bogle on 4 cautions, so one more away from a one-match ban. That's something you can't plan for. You can't plan for that in terms of, if they get suspended. Suspensions happen, injuries happen. Of course, it's unfortunate we've got long-term ones, but these things happen. So if Bogle or Roden get booked tomorrow night, it is what it is. We have to go with someone else on Tuesday and move things around. You got Schmidt in there, you've got Byram in there if Bogle's to go out. Roden, well, I don't know what we could do there. Maybe a trialist will have signed by then. We'll see, and we're going to get into that in a bit. In terms of that, because listen, he was asked about Czech Kouyaté today, and of course, Danny Farker, because he's not under contract, did not go into too much detail in regards to him. He was speaking more generally about the trialist, but he did say, "We hope to have a free agent signed before too long who is experienced and can cover the DM and CB roles, which does check Kouyaté's boxes. Could even be Kramer, but I doubt that's going to happen. That would be nice, though. Let me carry on, though. We're not too far away from making a decision within the next 2 weeks. And this is where I have to give the club a little bit of stick here. And I don't like to, but guys, we've literally just had a 2-week international break. We knew the situation. This isn't something that cropped up over the international break. We knew this beforehand. We saw it beforehand with Sunderland. We even saw, even with Joby Bellingham, finding spaces in those pockets where a defensive midfielder would be, that we are going to need a defensive midfielder. My thing is that it sounds like we've got a few options that they're assessing. No names have been given. There's speculation about who they are. That's cool. I'm not going to comment until it's a little bit more official. But we should have done this already. And it's just like this club historically, even with new owners now, we just seem to do things so slowly. So slowly. This should have been sorted last Monday. And then that player then is signed. He's got a full week to do the tactical things and everything else like that, and ready to possibly go against Sheffield United, or at least get a good half an hour in if needed against Sheffield United. But instead now we're still assessing as we're coming back to playing games again. It's just poor. I feel it's very poor. And I'm with it as well. If Daniel Farker doesn't think that they're fit enough, or the attitude's not right, or the hunger's not there, I should say, then cool. Don't sign anyone, because I don't agree with signing someone just because they have to fit in. You have to think about dressing room dynamics. You got to think about how their place in the team affects the whole room. So I do understand that. But if you've got options and you're assessing them, surely you'd have a favorite by now, and that you'd be working really hard to get a deal done. I know this is very much poor, fan talking, perfect scenario thinking, but you knew the situation. This should have been sorted out for me. Really should have been. Paul saying yes, 100%. We don't have drag our feet bringing in players in. Yeah, and I'm all willing, and I'm all for due diligence. I am. It's one of the most important things when it comes to signing players, which we haven't done in previous years. But we've literally had 2 weeks, and a free agent signing. You should know straight away. Not straight away, but you should assess them over the day, see how fit they are, talk to them, see how they're feeling, how hungry are they to get this team promoted, which is the only thing you need to be concerned about. Is everything cool at home? That's another thing to be concerned about. But surely it shouldn't be taken as long as it's taken. You know what I mean? But look, this is the situation we're in. I do expect to see somebody in, just going from Daniel Farker's words today. I know he doesn't like free agent coming in, especially as I think he ruled out end of October, November, I should say. He says, yeah, absolutely no, that's not ideal. But I do think we're gonna get somebody in the next few days. And I just hope it doesn't, whatever result happens on Friday, I hope that doesn't affect what we're going to do. Because if we win Friday, I don't want them to think, hey, we might be all right. I don't want them to think that. But at the same time, if we somehow lose, which is possible, but if we lose on Friday, I don't want them to go, oh, okay, go and sign that guy now. Doesn't matter what he's asking, give it him. No, don't panic like that either, which Daniel Farker did allude to in the press conference today as well. Max here, classic Mourinho. We should be like Mourinho, who would tactically choose when Roden should take his next yellow, let him miss one of the easier games. Yeah, classic Mourinho. Honestly, the guy is just a. When he's retired from the game, people will understand the genius that is Jose Mourinho. Man, 2 players he sent on the pitch and went, go and get yellow cards. So they missed the next game, but didn't miss. I think it was the quarter or semi-final. I think it was Xabi Alonso and Modric, if I can remember right. Just a legend, man. Just a legend, man. Yeah, that's how you got to do it sometimes. Let's see. Matt here saying, I wonder if they're waiting on Verba's return first, as that's been signposted. No, I don't think so, Matt, because it's a completely different position. And what we don't want, even though people have mentioned it before, we don't want Pascal in defensive midfield. We don't want that. And we don't really want Max Verba there either, because yeah, they can play there, but you would prefer a specialist in there. You would prefer somebody that knows the role. Quite interesting as well. In the press conference, he was asked about we can't have anything happen to Tanaka or Joe Ruffwell, and he even said the same thing I've said in regards to our defensive midfield situation. He had said the exact same thing: is that Ethan Ampadu is first choice, Gruev is the backup. Even though he does play in both, as we've seen many times, that is the hierarchy, which is pretty obvious anyway. Yeah, and Sean, absolutely. Pascal is centre back only. Yeah, he wasn't good in defensive midfield. I think people's memories are being clouded. Maybe the years have passed by and they're remembering something from Pascal. But what I remember from Pascal when he was in defensive midfield is the passes he was making in central defense, they weren't coming off just, a few yards further. And it's because it's a different position. It's different positional awareness in terms of how you read the game from defensive midfield. It just wasn't working for me. Yes, he was doing the tackling fine, but everything else he was a bit stiff in that position. So, and Pascal, by the way, has been our best centre back so far. So don't move him from there. Keep him there as much as we can. Um, so yeah, in terms of that, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And I think that is pretty much it in terms of the presser loads. And that's the disappointing thing. He was asked about this the whole George Baldock situation in terms of Sheffield United and everything else like that. I'll be real with you. I wasn't really listening at that point, but what I don't want, and I'm going to probably go into it in a bit more detail tomorrow, is I don't want that to be anything that affects the game. We can't have that tomorrow. As tragic as it is for George Baldock and his family and friends, I know people that know George Baldock in terms of that. What we can't have is this being an emotional game where it gives Sheffield United that extra push. We're recently just seen it with Greece and England. We've seen Greece there. They're not the great team, but they had that extra emotion in the game, and it came out, and they win the game for George Baldock. We got to avoid that. We have to, but I'm going to speak about that more tomorrow. And I don't want it to sound insensitive because I'm not being insensitive, but that shouldn't be affecting Leeds United's preparation at all for this game. We need to make a statement in this division if we're looking to go top two. We have to make a statement. So, or let Sheffield United do their pre-match thing. I'm sure they'll have T-shirts in memory of George Baldock, but any T-shirts that are underneath for goal celebrations, they need to keep those for their next game because we've got a job to do, and that would be my message, as cold as it is. But rest in peace to George Baldock, in all honesty, because that is a tragic situation. Yeah, guys, there wasn't a lot else. I'd be dragging it if I carry on any further. But tomorrow it will be a lengthy. I feel like it will be a lengthy preview tomorrow. I'm going to see what Chris Wilder said as well and bring those up in the video tomorrow, and we're going to go into it. Score predictions, preferred lineups, and everything else. We'll go into it in detail tomorrow for sure. But that is literally the best notes of the press conference. So with that being said, people, like the video before you go, subscribe to the channel, drop your comments on anything discussed today, and I'll see you tomorrow for the big match preview. And that's exactly what it is, people. It's a huge game Friday, and we're going to preview that tomorrow. See you in a bit.